Get ready. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. Start. The next item of expenditure which has attracted my notice is the expenditure on pensions. As much as 100 crores of rupees have been allotted for payment of pensions and other relief. May I once more point out to the Finance Ministry the hardship which people who have committed their pension are suffering from. Some of the people who have committed their pension have had the misfortune to live up to 70 to 80 years and have paid their committed portion twice, and still this government exacts these payments from these committed pensioners. I think the time has come when the Finance Ministry should look sympathetically at the lot of the committed pensioners and restore the original pension at least 5 to 6 years after they have paid up the full committed amount. Then I come to that white elephant in our government, namely the Planning Commission, which costs us rupees 10 crores. On a former occasion, when I made the remark that our Planning Commission is the costliest in the world, the Minister of State for Finance said that the French Planning Commission was as large, if not larger, and it was as costly as our Planning Commission. I challenged him to produce the figures. He said he had not the figures. I made some personal inquiries of the French embassy in Delhi, and they tell me that there is no special staff for the French Planning Commission, that the staff that try to implement the suggestions of the French Planning Commission are distributed over several ordinary ministries, so that no special cost is incurred on the staff of the Planning Commission. Why should we not have a Planning Commission composed of representative experts, honorary experts, like the Planning Commissions of other countries, experts from industry, from labor, from the professions, from the private sector, as well as the public sector, who give competent and useful advice on planning to the government. As at present consulted, the Planning Commission is composed of people who are pledged to one social philosophy, namely the socialist philosophy, because the Planning Commission and the government plan not for prosperity but for socialism. If the Planning Commission is to plan for prosperity, if the government are to work for economic prosperity, The Planning Commission should be composed of representative experts from interests which are engaged in the promotion of economic growth. Very often we find in the reports of ministries the phrase that the Planning Commission has allotted so much money to this department or to that ministry. Who or what is the Planning Commission to allot sums of money? It is the government departments that should allot. It is the ministry, the cabinet that should allot sums of money to this or that department. That shows that the Planning Commission has become another department of government. If it has become another department of government, then why should it not be brought into the journal system of government in the administration, made a regular department of government, so that it may be made responsible to this House? Now it is a body with power but without responsibility. It is time, therefore, that the government made up its mind to make an honest woman out of the Planning Commission. Then another ministry which attracts criticism is the Ministry of Housing, which is also charged with the solution of the housing problem in this country. In order to solve the immense housing problem of this country, indicated by the calculations of the Planning Commission itself, in order to place the housing position of India on a satisfactory footing, as many as 50 million rural houses have to be reconstructed. How can rupees 46 crores go towards the reconstruction of even a small proportion of this large number? I made a suggestion to the consultative committee of the Ministry of Housing that the government should consider the question of drafting and introducing into Parliament a housing law imposing housing obligations upon all employers, governmental or private, from the center down to the villages. I was told of certain practical difficulties which stood in the way. One difficulty pointed out by the ministry was that investment on industrial development would be considerably reduced if so much money was spent on housing. But has the government considered that housing itself is an investment, an economic investment? Satisfactory housing would promote the health and strength of the workers, and the competitive capacity of the workers would be increased if decent housing conditions were provided. Another objection raised to the drafting and introduction of a housing law by the ministry was that it should increase the cost of production, and therefore in a competitive market, in a competitive world market, we would not be able to sell our steel goods. This was exactly the excuse raised during the British days that if the wages of the workers were increased, we could not compete in the world market. Therefore, the wages of the workers had to suffer all along.